Hey, this is Joel Cummins, and I'm here taking over Life of an Entrepreneur, here to interview Matt DeCoursey, the guy who came up with the idea.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show, Joel.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Let's dive right in.
Sure.
So, when did you decide, what made you decide, I want to be an entrepreneur and start my own business?
I think I always knew it. Like ever since I can remember, I was doing entrepreneurial things. Like my parents had a house that backed up to a golf course, and I remember filling my wagon up with golf balls we had found around the yard or anywhere we could get them.
Sell them back?
Yeah, we drag the wagon up to the tee box and sit there all day, and three for $1. And just everything from that all the way, in high school I started a little business where we painted the address numbers on curbs, and it just kind of went on, and it took me a while to kind of find some things that had bigger possibilities than selling used golf balls and stuff like that, but I think I always kind of knew it. Did you always know you wanted to be a musician?
That's a good question. I don't know if it was completely obvious to me. I think I knew I wanted to do something in music, and I was never really sure what it was until I actually got to college. And it was interesting because it was actually singing 16th century polyphonic vocal music that made me realize I wanted to be in rock and roll. But
I think working for other people made me realize I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
That's true. I can see how that would make sense too.
You're an entrepreneur too, though.
I am, in a sense, for sure. Yeah. So let's. I'm curious about this. What you put out your book, $1 Million Bedroom, which is basically your story of where you got, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago from the start of your ticketing company to today.
Yeah.
And so when you started your ticketing company, in your mind, what did you think the goal was?
There wasn't one. It was an accident. I mean, I bought some fish tickets, and I had extras, and I didn't know what to do with them. I sold them on eBay, and I made a couple bucks. and here I was at the time, and you knew me then too. You actually stayed right next to the $1 Million Bedroom one night and brought that book.
I did.
So you had been there. You saw that it was real, but. I'd been searching for something to do because I'd gone back to school as a 31-year-old.
Right.
And I had some money when that started, and it ran out real fast. And I was just trying to figure out something I could do from home within the context. I was going back to school so I could get a real job, but I really wanted to own my own business. I just didn't know what, how, or, so that evolved into so many different things that were more than just the relationships that we built with venues and teams and stuff like that, the online marketing stuff, opening an office in the Philippines, and it was just felt like a very natural yet struggling progression. Mm-hmm. So, and then at some point, I think I say we because it's Jill was involved as well, but the moment that we believed that we could do some big things, it started happening, and never before that. So.
And what was was there a particular moment when you started believing that some big things were going to happen?
Yes. So in $1 Million Bedroom, I actually mentioned the coin toss moment, and I think you get one in a lot of different things in life, and that's that whole. Hey, I literally said to Jill one day, let's flip a coin. Heads, we'll quit doing this. Tails, we'll get back to it. And she said, are you really going to quit? I said, no. So I put the coin back in my pocket. But, I think shortly after that, I'd committed mentally. And I started looking around at the people I knew that had made a lot of money. And I compared myself to him. I said, well, I think that I'm as smart or as driven or as willing to get the job done as they are, so why can't I do it? In fact, maybe I can do it better. And just kind of build a belief structure around it. And I think that's a big part of, and I think that's probably, we kind of talked about that with your music too, that when's that moment when it clicks and you're like, wow, this could actually be good. I think some of it too is also just the feeling, like certain things felt right that we were doing, and despite people telling us we shouldn't be doing it or it wouldn't work or it was a bad idea or whatever, well, we did it anyway.
From $1 Million Bedroom, what do you think is the single most important piece of advice you could give an entrepreneur from that?
That's a great question, and I should know the answer. There's a lot of different parts. And I would say understanding the path to revenue that you have with anything that you do, like having I talk to a lot of people, and I told you yesterday that I've kind of taken on mentoring some people, and I try to give people advice when they ask, because a lot of people have done that for me. But, with that, people think they have this great idea, and it might be a great idea, but do you understand what you're going to have to go through before you collect one single dollar? We're kind of talking about that with music on the ride here today. Like, what do you have to do? Like, are you going to have to do 1,000 open mics, or are you going to have to do this? And it took us a year and a half, and we'd already spent $250,000 before GigaBook collected $1.
That's a big investment.
Yeah. It requires a lot of asking yourself, am I crazy? Is this really a good idea? You get a lot of that. And it's, as you guys say, what is it? I'm well endowed with all the doubt I need.
Yep.
Well, that's definitely comes with entrepreneurship.
So let's talk about GigaBook for a minute. Tell us, first of all, what is the purpose of GigaBook, and then why is GigaBook going to be better than any other competitor that might try to do the same thing?
Sure. Well, GigaBook started when it was born conceptually the day before I left for St. Thomas to get married to Jill. And I had one job, and that was to get the dogs to the kennel. And it was 5 o'clock the night before we were supposed to leave the next day at 6 a.m. and the damn dogs are still in the house. And I was about to be in big trouble. So the lady that owned the kennel was a friend of mine, but it was 20 minutes away. I kept trying to call. I was freaking out. So I throw these 2 crazy dogs in the back of the car, and I get moving. And I got there, and the business was open, so I took a deep breath, and I went in. There was no one in there. And I hear in the back, I'm back here. Went all the way in the back, and this lady's in the back. And her and this giant dog are both completely covered with bubbles. And I was like, okay, now I know why you weren't answering the phone. Get in the car, on my way home, and I'm sitting there thinking, it just offended my sense of business. I'm like, how much money are you leaving on the table? Like, is my friend's business going to survive? Like, if they don't answer the phone, they're going to just call someone else. So I, kind of went through that whole process, and the thing with a good business, especially with software, you have to solve a problem. And that's a problem. That was a problem. And with that, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff out there that did it. And I just started obsessing over it. And I was like, and I realized that, 5 years ago, you couldn't order a pizza online from a lot of places. Now you can order one through Twitter. But I thought, this is going to happen for all small businesses. So we started building it. And what does GigaBook do? It does a lot of stuff, but at its most basic level, it turns a small business owner's website into a real-time booking engine. And it does it for a really low, affordable price. Why is it better? We're fully customizable. You can set it up to do it the way you want. It's our biggest strength and our biggest weakness, because some people freak out when they see all these bells and whistles. It's kind of like your keyboard world. That would scare me. I'd be like, but with that, we realized that we might be onto something, and then the harder it got to build and the deeper and whatever we got down the rabbit hole, I started realizing that, actually, you're familiar with Ray Kurzweil Keyboards?
Yes, sure.
He's an inventor now. And I had read his book and watched a show about him, and he was talking about inventors. And he said a good inventor is thinking about and getting ready to build their invention that's coming out in 10 years. And I started thinking about that, like, through the whole process, and we went through a lot. I really did. I drove myself crazy over GigaBook. Like, I've got a lot riding on it, and wondering, like, is this going to work? And because it's really complex and it has to do a lot of stuff to get. And if any of it doesn't work, people are just pissed. So I finally, over this last 6 months especially, realized that we were the inventor that started building something a long time ago. And now all these people are racing to catch up with us. And we have, huge businesses and other people inquiring about it, wanting to license it and wanting to do a lot of things. And it's kind of been validation for all of the insanity that we've gone through.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see, what else? So going back to your book, Balance Me, you have a lot of things going on in your life, different, from GigaBook to other projects that you're working on. How do you deal with prioritizing all the things that you want to do in your life and what to focus your energy on a daily basis?
Also a great question. Well, first off, I'm married to an incredibly patient woman. It's got to be really hard to be married to me. I mean, I acknowledge that. I tell her that. And I tell people that all the time because I get obsessive with things. And, that's my form of balance comes in these long, drawn-out spurts, because if I'm not going to be happy if I don't get it out of my system. If I got a great idea or I want to do something or sometimes it's about feeling inspired. And it takes a lot of motivation and stuff to do that. So the priority, first it comes from is life going to be a total disaster if I don't do this? And that can come in personal, professional, or physical.
Sure.
And I kind of always have thought of myself as that guy that spins plates on the end of poles, and sometimes you have to run to the one that's wobbling. And so, can we avoid catastrophe? And then it's usually, can we avoid embarrassment? And then, then whatever's next. I'm usually busy with one of those two things, if you want to know the truth. That's a big thing with being an entrepreneur. There's usually something on fire.
Right. Yeah.
Do you do the same thing?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because for me, the concept of time is totally different on the road than it is when I'm at home. When I'm on the road, I'm working backwards from the end of the day all the time and making sure that I have enough time to do all the things that I need to do in the day. So when it's, when I'm home, I feel like it's a completely different feeling in general about kind of the openness of the day. But
Do you ever wonder what you're going to do with yourself? Like you look at it, you're like, wow, I don't have this schedule or this someone telling me to be here at this time or that time. That's a pretty big shift in dynamic, and all the time.
It definitely is, and I think I've tried to embrace that variety a little bit and kind of relax about schedules when I'm home and try not to build too many things into my schedule at home as a result.
That was something you said in Balance Me that I have really, really adhered to, and that's leaving yourself space.
Yeah,
because things always take longer than you think they do, and I've actually passed that on to maybe even hundreds of people. Wow. And that's a big thing, leaving those little buffers in there for you. Because if you don't, you're going to be stressed, even if you're getting stuff done or feeling like you're doing what you want. But you're like, God, I got to do it next. So.
Yeah, it's absolutely something that for me is essential. And I mean, I go home and I actually love getting up early and trying to make the days last as long as possible.
Sometimes that happens to me accidentally because I just stayed up working the whole night.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for me is I get wound up about stuff and it can be 40 hours later and I'm like, I need to go to sleep. I'm getting loopy and I need to go sleep. And
I'm definitely I've learned that I function a lot better and I'm more coherent and generally just nicer to people.
When you
I've got to get 6 to 7 hours minimum a night.
I think I average about 4 a night.
Yeah, so that's impressive.
Yeah.
It's
I got to say, and for anyone that's watching, I've been just following you here for a day and a half. I'm exhausted, and I'm not even doing any work. So, I mean, that's really just the distance and the travel and just the, hey, sleep in this little bunk or on the mattress that we dropped on my floor last night or whatever. And that, I don't know, I wouldn't do well with that. I mean, that's why I quit my job with Roland.
You certainly have to be adaptable to so many different situations. And I think, the early years of Umphrey's McGee, we spent time driving around in a van, and it was like, if you could catch an hour of sleep in the van, laying in the back of the van, or even figure out how to position yourself in the van so you could lean against the window and sleep, you figure out ways to kind of make do, and to accept situations that otherwise might not be so ideal.
Is that frustrating?
No, I don't think so.
Or did
because
you just get used to it? And you're like, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and you get used to it being part of the music and travel game, that you're going to have to probably put up with some situations that might be a little bit challenging. And as long as you go into it knowing that things might change and that,
right.
That's
the only promise I make to people. I tell people that all the time, especially like a new employee or anyone. I say, there's only one promise I'm willing to make, and that's that things will and do change.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you can count on,
So it's important to, I think the more you acknowledge that, you're going to be okay with things that happen that are mostly out of your control. So much of life is just how we react to things. So. And
I agree. Let me ask you a question. What was the thing that stuck out to you in $1 Million Bedroom regarding your business and your entrepreneurial nature?
I think one of the big things that stuck out to me was when you were discussing choosing people to work with to invest in your work, and how important that initial decision is.
Meaning like the business partners part?
Exactly.
It's easier to get rid of your wife than it is your business partner. And not trying to sound weird, but it's true.
So that right there, I think, is one of the most essential things to think about when you're starting something, is that you want to have somebody who values the same things that you do, and hopefully those are things like, honesty, loyalty, that they're going to be hardworking, dedicated, and that they're going to have similar priorities to what you have as well. So that's something that, being in a touring band and really a big machine that is operating like this, that we've made a lot of those decisions, and I think the fact that we have almost all of the same people still working together really speaks to that we made good choices about the people that we're working with.
Yeah, some of these folks I've seen for the whole time, and they do a great job. It's really impressive. For those of you watching, musicians are probably known more for the opposite of the way you guys pull it off. Disorganized or not on time or disorganized.
Capricious.
I don't know what that means, but not all of us went to a fancy college. So.
Whatever, this guy may love Notre Dame more than me.
It's not true. It's not true. I was forced at a very young age to do that.
Don't believe him.
Yeah. Well, hey, Joel, I don't want to keep you because, this guy's got to play music for, what we're expecting, a couple thousand people tonight.
Let's hope so, yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll be that way. And anyway, thanks for taking time to have me on your show.
Oh, it's great to have you. I hope we'll have you back some other time if your entrepreneurship career goes well enough.
When I figure out what I want to do when I grow up, I'm going to let you be the first person to know.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone.
See ya.